Okay, stated before, sometimes it don't hurt to repeat myself for these folks who live stream. I got one young lady, she live streams, she hears me say, well, like the county principles, chapter 1 on Cengage was all due today. Chapter 2 on Cengage will be all due Friday. But she will text me or email me to verify that. Is that what you said? Did you say Cengage chapter 2 due Friday? I gotta text her back. Yes. But she likes it double verify. So, and some students, you give a problem 2A, only problem one problem 2A in any book. The ones, is this it? Is this the page? So on. So everybody have a good Labor Day weekend. What you do, work?
A little bit, early out.
I didn't do too much, except that my allergies upset from being outdoors so much.
Yeah.
Maya, have you been live streaming?
Mm-hmm.
So, they sent me something, I can't see it. It's something, but they can live stream.
Okay.
Okay, now, folks, this test is going to be easy, okay? I will give you manufacturer statement. We need to practice one today. And I will give you journal entries. We're supposed to practice some today. Then I'll give you multiple choice, 10 to 15. And multiple choice, you'll have to work out 3 or 4 times predetermined factory overhead or the total cost by using a predetermined factory overhead rate. That's all in chapter 2. Predetermined overhead rate. That's all you give in chapter 2. I give you multiple choice. But in chapter 3, I gave you journal entries and manufacturer statement. So it's a pretty easy test. I made it from scratch. Gave it to Michelle Thursday, but she's been sick or a child sick or something. Friday, Monday. Hope she gets it done tomorrow. She'll be here tomorrow. She'll get it done. Okay. But anyhow. In the past, I probably even used the old test one time. That's not good to do. Same book, same test from last year. I don't like to use a test that I've used before. And I'm sure they get out, answers get out, and all that good stuff. Okay. All right, what problems were due on chapter 3 today? Which one?
13 to 15.
I think both of those had a manufacturer statement. So we're going to review manufacturing statements today. These problems are just numbered in sequence with the exercises. All right, 13, page 139. Schedule of cost of goods manufactured and cost of goods sold. All right, you've done cost of goods sold many, many times in principles. And anyhow, okay, are you on the basketball team?
Yeah.
Have they buried that young man yet?
No, the funeral's going to be in New York.
New York?
This week's.
Too hard for teammates to go with them. Good. That was said. Question. You drank Red Bull? Drink any of those other energy drinks? Does anybody else?
I do sometimes.
gonna have it doing it. I don't know, there's something about the energy drivers, what they call heart attacks.
They say different things.
The what?
They say different things, but I mean, it's like one dream's probably kept out.
That's just turns some bad things.
Too much at one time can cause your heart rate to increase, your blood pressure to rise, just like any other drug, caffeine, substance.
Yeah. I guess if you got too much of it.
Yes.
My son became an alcoholic one time, and he drank it for fun. That was dumb. And he lost, the doctor chiropractor, he lost his practice. He lost $600,000 business. He lost his home, about 300,000. He lost everything because of drinking. And so, but I started back. He got off of it, it hurt his liver. Because he had soreness when it did his liver. He had to quit drinking. That's like all forward. So, drinking. So the drugs, alcohol, these things happen to a lot of families. So, and West Virginia, meth ban, meth. I know a young lady that lives in my neighborhood, and she's so hooked on meth and alcohol. Anytime bill she would get, her husband divorced. She lost her $2. Still stayed on meth. She got pregnant again. This baby is only a couple of months old. She's already lost that baby. So, all people give up everything for drugs. Bad thing about it, she took the drugs right up until that baby was born. When I hear it's going to have some problem. So for the mother that does that to an unborn baby, they should go to prison because it's born. All right? From injury to another. That's my opinion. The drugs can be on. All right. Now, I've known of people getting hooked on drugs because of injuries. They get hooked on maybe some kind of high-powered pain pill. But there's ways to get off of that too if you want to. So, anyway, enough of that. Let's look at this problem. Let me bring up okay, here's what we have. We have all the inventories, raw materials, work in process, finished goods. And we have prepare a schedule of cost of goods manufactured and cost of goods sold. The total manufacturing cost for the year was $683. But we got to plug in a couple of numbers, don't we? We got to plug in work in process beginning, and we got to plug in finished goods ending. All right, and we got to plug in direct labor. Well, now, if you've got, let's see, you got your overhead of $285. You got your materials. All right, beginning was 40, and what'd you add to that? Purchase of how much? 290. That made how much? 230. And your ending materials was 10. Did you get 220 for raw materials? Did anybody? Monet, did you get 220 for raw materials?
320.
Am I adding wrong? Well, yeah, 40 and 290 makes 320. I told you. I might not be with you today, but yeah, 320 is correct.
I'm gonna ask you something.
Yeah,
Why did you take on the problem 13 direct labor 78,000? Why did you take that?
all right. First off, my materials, and my pen won't write on this. So let me bring that notebook just a minute. If you take beginning inventory of raw materials, I'll show you what your question in a minute, Clayton, and you take purchases. All right, that gives you materials available for use minus ending inventory gives you materials used. So what we were just doing there, Monique corrected me, we had 40,000 beginning and we purchased 290. That made 330. No, yeah. Minus what, 10? So that made 320. I now plate to answer your question. We have 3 ingredients in a factory: materials, labor, and overhead. We just found materials to be what, 320? Now, what overhead do you use, applied or actual? Probably should use applied, that's what they've been doing. Manufacturer overhead applied was 285. So plate it. We got to calculate manufacturing cost. And we got 2 blanks here, one here, one here. We got to fill in one. Now, if we had labor, we have no problem. We had the 3. But do we have the manufacturing cost? Did it give you the manufacturing cost? How much is it?
270.
That's manufacturing overhead.
Oh, sorry.
The total manufacturing cost for the year was 683. The cost of goods available was 740. So did you use the 683 here, Monique? Because that's what it told you. Okay, so we got one of the check marks filled in. They gave you that amount. Okay, now Clayton, can you fill in labor?
No.
You still can't?
Yeah, I can, but if I'm gonna have a problem like this, I don't know if we can.
You work backwards. I'm gonna give you one to work backwards on the test. It'll be straightforward. But here, if you add 320 and 285, what do you get? 605? 605 from 683. Would this be 78,000? Just got to plug it in.
Is it what they need from solutions?
All right, so we've got that one plugged in. Is there another figure?
Work in process.
The working process we'll have to plug in also. And you got to have another figure there to go with that. Sometimes you have to work backwards from cost of goods sold. All right, let's look at the whole statement. Have you got your Excel problem done on chapter 2 and chapter 3? Try to have those done by Thursday. This crazy thing, it might sound. All right, now this is what we should have gotten down to for what I just went over. We had beginning raw materials, purchases, materials available minus ending inventory, gave us raw materials used. Then we had 285, we had 683, so we plugged in direct labor. And we did use the applied, keep that in mind. Now, do we have another figure? We need something to plug in. All right, we've got working process ending 35, but we need another figure. Total manufacturing cost. You see, this is total manufacturing cost. If you were a new company, that's your final answer. If you're a brand new company, that's it. But this company is not new. They had a beginning working process. So now we've got to find cost of goods manufactured. Is that number given to you? It has to be. Is this number given to you in that problem? If it's not, we'll do a cost of goods sold first. 690 was not given to you, was it?
No.
So we cannot fill in this figure, this one, or this one. So, Karen, what'd you do? Did you do the cost of goods sold first? All right, that sounded like a shortcut. You added the what now? The cost? Cost of goods sold was 660, and you added 30. Well, that's a way to get there without doing the income statement. Did you all see how Karen got there? Cost of goods sold plus income. All right. Had to give you total manufacturing cost. Cost of goods sold plus net income. Has to give you your total cost. Okay, so Karen was able to finish this one. So she worked backwards here and subtracted 35, added it and got 725. And what do you add to 683 to get 725? She had to add 42. All right, now that took care of the manufacturing statement by plugging in. Now, what did they give you here on the cost of goods sold, which is part of an income statement? You have to have finished goods here, and you had ending finished goods omitted. But as Karen said, we know we've got 660. We know we've got 50. We know we had 690. That gives us 740. Now deduct ending finished goods of 80. Okay. Now Karen also knew we had the 660, and she could take, what do I add to 740 to give me 660?
Subtract 80,000.
80. Do what?
Subtract 80,000.
And then, of course, 660 minus the difference in actual and applied gives you 645. Some of you came in late. Pass this around again. Add your name. Any questions? All right, let's move on to number 15. Journal entries in a T account and financial statements. I don't care if you put those in a T account or if you wrote them out in journal entries. Okay? I just want you to know how to do journal entries. So we need to practice both of these things today, the manufacturer statement and journal entries. So here, raw materials purchased on account. Monique, we'll start with you. What would you do?
Raw materials.
Okay, that's sheet of paper. Had an engineering student this morning, and his professor kept him late. Now, how long will it take you to walk from engineering over here? How long does it take? 10 minutes? Easy. So usually that's what you got. And his professor kept him late. He worried and asked that I need a note from his professor. No. Some of you have reason for being tardy. Some of you it's just a fact of life that you like to be tardy. But I don't need a note from anybody if you're tardy. But now I'm going to pick on Karen though. Karen is probably usually the first one here every day. Probably. There's others that get here 10 minutes before class starts. And Karen, are you that early to all your classes? Right. And one other thing about Karen. Karen, you've been up here. You're a junior this year, right? Okay. How many classes have you missed in 2 years? A couple. One a year. Okay. Maybe everybody can't do that. It'd be nice if you could. I know you ball players sometimes has to be out of town, and my tennis players, they have to be out of town, and so forth. All right, so let's go on to these journal entries. Make them as if you were making a journal entry. I'm going to pick on you on this one. Monique did that one. Raw materials used in production. How about that one?
Debit.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, debit work process for 185 and credit raw materials.
Well, now, was there any indirect there? They were all direct, so you're correct. But now, the rest of that problem 13, I'm not giving you this on a test. It's an income statement. And most income statements you did in principles, you added this cost of goods sold onto it. Now, remember the difference in retailing and in a factory. In retailing, that was purchases. In a factory, we had to do the manufacturing statement. Okay? But an income statement, they did give you the net income, but here you had sales, you had cost of goods sold. They used the 645, so they're actually using the actual overhead, which they should. If you applied too much, take it out. If you applied too little, put it in. Cost of goods sold. All right. So sales, cost of goods sold, gross margin. You've always seen that. Hey, they left out a dollar mark there. Selling expense, administrative expense, and net income. But 14 was long. All right. Plain old generic entry. I thought they wanted you to put them in T accounts.
Once you do both.
They want you to do both, didn't they? Post them. They want you to post them. Okay. And then C, of course, utility bills incurred on account 70,000, 90% related to factory, and the remaining related to administrative. Just going on down the road there. How about that one?
Debit selling administrative expenses and overhead and rest accounts payable.
All right, did you put overhead to 63? All right, and utility expense 70. You see, in a factory, everything's going into overhead. But for the administrative, we gotta have depreciation expense, utility expense, and so on. All right, and how about accrued salaries and wages cost? 230 direct labor, 90 indirect, 110 selling administrative. Gary, what would you think?
But you group them all and put them all under,
Indirect labor goes under overhead. But now, what would direct labor go under? Anybody?
Work process,
Okay, and what would selling administrative expense go under?
salaries, expenses.
Selling administrative expense would be fine. Because it is selling administrative. Well, you should put salaries in there somewhere. Sales and administrative salaries expense. But as he said, salary expense. And salaries and wages payable because accrued salaries. It didn't say paid salaries. This would have been cash, but it's accrued, so it's wages and salaries payable. Maintenance costs incurred on account in the factory, 54. Maya, what do you think? Manufacturing overhead, debit, what do you think your credit? That'd be good enough, yeah. All right, so that goes into manufacturing overhead. Okay, advertising cost incurred 136. How about that one? Going back. Where y'all think that would go? Advertising cost goes under
Advertising expense.
or selling expense? Was it paid or incurred?
For
It'd be a payable, wouldn't it? All right. They do put it under advertising expense. I wouldn't count it wrong if you put it under selling expense. All right, let's come all the way back to the front. Depreciation was recorded for the year. 95,000, 80% was factory. All right, all the way back up front. What have you got on that one?
Manufacturing overhead, the selling administrative expenses, debit for 19,000,
And credit what?
and I credited accumulated.
All right. Even though it's selling administrative expense, they probably would debit depreciation expense. But the part that goes to the factory is just overhead and then depreciation expense. They didn't break that down. Some of that could be selling, some of that could be administrative. Okay, Clayton, give it a try.
I did my homework.
Rental cost incurred on account, 120,000. 85% was factory and 15% was selling administrative. All right.
Manufacturing overhead is 100,000.
I don't know. What is 85% of 120?
18,000. Rent expense 18,000.
Okay, 18. Okay.
And
What was the rest? 102?
102. Yeah.
And what'd you credit?
Accounts payable.
All right. The Clayton has a handicap, you all don't. He struggles with our language. But That's better than you all. You can't speak his. All right. All right. Do you speak two languages, Clayton, or three?
You asked me this question.
I probably did. Yeah, I probably know the three. Yeah, I asked you before. I asked you again for their information. All right, going on. Manufactured overhead was applied to jobs. Well, we got to figure that out. All right, well, let's see. Yeah, manufactured overhead was applied to jobs. How'd they say they applied factory overhead? Its rate was based on a cost formula that estimated 360 of overhead and 900,990. Now, when you divide 360 by 900, what do you get? 360 by 900.
400.
All right, 360 by 900. Did you get $4?
400.
Oh, did you get? I don't believe you get 400, would you?
360,000 divided by 900. It's 400.
Is it 400? Okay, maybe.
I mean, that would give a solution.
It seems like a lot. Okay. All right, so how many hours of direct labor did we have? 900 and what? 75. All right. Then you multiply that by 400, right, Bladen?
Yeah.
And what entry did you get on that one?
390.
Debit 390 to work in process inventory. And credit 390 to manufacturing overhead.
Yeah, that just seemed high, but that's what it was, 400. So you had to calculate your rate first, then you got the journal entry. All right, moving on down, I guess. Cost of goods manufactured for the year is 770. How about that entry?
Right, debit finished goods and credit work in process.
And debit what now?
Work in process.
Cost of goods manufactured. What are you going to do with that cost? You've already had it in working process. What are you going to do with it? Finished goods.
Right. So I said,
Oh, okay. I thought you said working process.
that was credit.
Okay, debit finished goods, credit working process. All right. And then sales for the year on account was 1,200,000. These good cost. Karen, just give me one of those entries. All right, your debit accounts receivable, credit sales, that's half. That's one entry out of two. Anthony, have you got that last entry? Greg, have you got that last entry? All right. Anybody, debit what? What we debit? All right, your debit cost of goods sold and credit finished goods for the 800. Trying to make sure it was 800. I guess it was. You were supposed to post to T accounts, prepare the manufacturing statement, prepare journal entry to close any balance in the overhead, and prepare an income statement. You have ever been to that, Molly? You have everything it says. You didn't post, but you did everything else?
Do you have problems like for bonus points?
I think I'm gonna take this one up. There's a long problem. Who has it? I'll take it. I'll take it without the T account and give you a bonus on Thursday too. There's a long problem. It's worth something.
What about with this problem? It's bonus points and fund donate and bonus.
Excel, I'll give you a couple of points for using Excel.
Foundational.
Okay, this guy.
Uh,
Number 13.
Okay, that's all right.
Number 13 sales.
You do yours on Excel? Cody, was it easy to type in journal entries on Excel? I guess it was. That's. But. You have to plug in your formulas in on Excel. That's why you did it. You just use it. Use your own head.
This one, this one, foundational program, you said is gonna be for extra.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Anybody else do the foundation?
Foundation is the longest one.
Huh?
Foundation.
Anybody else do the foundation? They did too.
Oh, it's like 20 points of it.
Place you wanna make 100 before you start to 10. Right? Foundation for all this extra credit. Homework is doing extra credit. Cell phones and extra credit. Everybody has the opportunity to do this. I don't wanna leave anybody out. For example, Eric going through these, you're welcome. Right? Can we get it put together?
I got some of it, but you're not taking 3, 4, and 5 yet, we still go over it.
What, problem 3, 4, and 5? Well, we went over today what I wanted to go over for test purposes. Journal entries, number 1. Now, T accounts, if you wanted to do that and post it, you could. All right. See, I can look at this and do a manufacturing statement. I could get my raw materials, 185. I can, excuse me, I can get my manufacturing overhead, the applied or the actual, and I can get my labor. All right. So I could do a manufacturing statement what I see here. But here's my raw materials ending inventory of 45, my work in process of 56, and my finished goods of 30. That's my 3 inventories that are left. So you can do a lot with these T accounts too. Now, this is what's important here. And that was in both problems. All right, take your beginning inventory plus purchases, total materials available, ending raw materials, 45. All right, materials used plus labor plus overhead plus beginning working process minus ending, 770. Now here's what you did. Were you over applied or under applied?
Overapplied. I believe.
You are definitely over applied. Why? When you reduce cost of goods sold, you were over applied. All right. If you had to increase cost of goods sold, you're under applied. So that's the way to get whether you're applied, over applied, or under applied. Now go back and look at that ledger account. All right. You have a credit balance. If you have a credit balance, you're over applied. If you have a debit balance, you're under applied. You can get that from the T accounts too. All right. So when we debit factory overhead 5 and credit cost of goods sold 5, and we post, this would have a 0 balance, wouldn't it? We want factory overhead to have a 0 balance. Now, we could easily do an income statement. Schedule of cost of goods sold, beginning finished goods, plus cost of goods manufactured, goods available, deduct unadjusted cost of goods sold, take out that $5,000, leaving $795. Now that's the part you put on your income statement to take place of purchases. Sales minus cost of goods sold is gross margin, minus selling and administrative gives you operating income of 115. So that was a pretty long problem. It's good practice, okay? You will not have anything that long on the test. You will have the manufactured statement. Now, on that problem, I could have put in, so don't overlook it. And I don't want to tell you it's not there, and it will be. Overlook this schedule of cost of goods sold. It might be on there. Okay. All right. We practiced the two things. Now, predetermined overhead rate. We practiced that a lot in chapter 2. I know some of you might have been late in getting a textbook, but you can get caught up. All right. I want you to look at page 141. I want you to look at that comprehensive problem. Is that the one some of you did? Who did that one? It wasn't that one. It's a foundation problem, wasn't it? All right, look at this comprehensive problem. I want you, as fast as you can, in about 6 minutes, see how many journal entries you can make. If you make 5 or 6, you've learned this. Okay, problem 516, page 141, journal entries only, starting with A, raw materials purchased. All right, put that entry down and take it away and see how many you can do. You folks online, you should practice these journal entries also. Oh, it's one for cash. Yeah, yeah. Break it up with that.
Yeah.
There you go. So, can you please have one? Yeah, we don't use them. Just talking. Right here, Jerry. Excuse me. Jerry, you got all 10 on?
No.
Got 8. D. Okay, how much you get? 7. I get 4 to 7. Good. It looks like about 4 is the norm. Karen's just ahead of everybody else. If you got less than 4, you're behind everybody else. All right, better study for this test. You got less than 4. All right. Just trying to prove to you, you need to study, but you know that. All right. And of course, Clayton needs to get serious. Okay, here's the first 2. It's the same thing we've been going over every time we do a problem. We put raw materials, buy raw materials first, cash or accounts payable. All right, we put some raw materials, we take it out of the storeroom and put it in the factory. Well, the factory's going to use it. They're going to make something out of it. That's why they put it in work in process. But if it's indirect materials like grease and oils and cleaning rags and things like that, they'll put it in overhead. Here's the 4 that most of you got through. You have a work in process. You create debit factory overhead for the factory. But here is sales commission, and here's administrative salaries. The total we pay cash. Then we paid rent expense with cash. Some of it's just plain old rent expense, but most of it was manufactured overhead for the factory. Now you have a question on any A, B, C, or D.
On C, I took it by the sales commission expense, administrative sales expense. Got the same answers.
On D,
C,
what did you combine?
the sales commission and administrative expense. I just added them together, put them under, sales and administrative expenses.
Okay, instead of rent expense?
No, on, C. What up?
Oh, okay, you had, that's okay. But now if we were posted and had ledger accounts for each one, we'd need to make 2 separate entries. But right here, we're just making generic journal entries. If you added these and got sales and administrative salaries, that's okay. All right, cash paid for utility costs. Where are we gonna put utility costs, Clayton?
Utility cost? Just in utility cost.
What? What are we gonna debit for utility costs?
Utility expense.
That'd be okay if it wasn't a factory. Put it in factory overhead, since it is a factory, and credit cash.
I remember.
Cash paid for advertising. Gary, what have you got for that one?
Advertising expense.
All right, says credit cash. Okay. Why did we not put that one in factory overhead? Not a factory expense. It's either selling administrative or factory. All right, depreciation recorded on equipment, 100. 88 of this amount related to equipment in the factory. Well, what are we gonna put 88 in? If it's factory, we put 88 in what? We put the remainder depreciation, and then we credit accumulated. Same thing over and over, folks, all these problems. Manufactured overhead was applied. Now, when you apply it, what do you debit? Factory overhead, right? I mean, you debit work in process, sorry, and you credit manufactured overhead. But that rate is 165%. That's percent now, not dollars. So take 165% of direct labor cost of 180. Overhead is more than labor. 165% as much. Well, we completed 675. When we complete them, where do we send them to? It's the only place they can go to. All right. And then when we sell them, what do? We take them out of finished goods, don't we? And debit cost of goods sold. And then, of course, make your sale entry, debit cash and credit sales. All right, folks. We've had a lot of review. We've looked at a lot of problems, a lot of entries. If you want more practice, maybe do problem 17. It's optional, not mandatory. If you want more practice, do 17. Now, I have a class that lasts to, I guess, 10:45. But if you want to get here at 10:45, go ahead and start the test. Now, I have a tax class after this class. If you need more time and you don't have a class after this class, I'll give you more time somehow or another, okay? So study all you can, and some of you, go ahead and start studying. You'll find it's not so bad. Okay, I'll see you Thursday. It don't hurt.